Hello everyone. Today we are going to cover chapter 2, the Egyptian civilization from your class 6 history and civics. Let us begin with the location and origin. Ancient Egypt, like other early civilizations, developed in a river valley. That is the valley of the River Nile. The River Nile was central to the whole civilization and was a constant and major influence on its development. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus called Egypt the gift of the Nile. Every year, without fail, the river would overflow its banks, transforming the entire valley into a vast lake. When the waters receded, they left behind a deposit of black, fertile soil along each bank. Crops grew easily in this soil and yielded rich harvests. The Nile provided water for irrigation. The Egyptians built an elaborate network of canals, dams, dikes, and reservoirs to carry on agriculture on a large scale. The Nile also served as a national highway and the main transportation channel. As we all know, that during ancient time, roadways were not so developed. People traveled or preferred to travel through waterways. This enabled the Egyptians to develop trade relations with neighboring countries, making their country a land of plenty. The valley of the Nile was a narrow strip of fertile land stretching along the banks of the Nile. It was about 1200 kilometers long. The rest of the country was a desert of sand and stone. These deserts served as natural barriers to foreign invasions. So the early Egyptian settlers enjoyed many years of peace and security during which they learned to build huts, grow crops, domesticate animals, and establish a society of their own. Thus, we can see that though maximum portion of Egypt was desertic area, unfertile, it served as a natural protector to the Egyptians. Because of this desertic land, there was no dearth of foreign invasion, as the invaders would get lost in the desertic land. And this helped the ancient Egyptians to invest their time on other activities and live peacefully. Another interesting fact about ancient Egyptians is that they strongly believed that there was life after death and they devoted all their energies preparing for eternity. They believed that a dead person lived on his tomb, which was his eternal home. The more beautiful it was, the more splendid would be the afterlife. It means that they believe that there is life after death, and after a person dies, he lives in his tomb. That is his eternal home. And they also believed in beautifying the tomb. They believed that the more beautiful their tombs are, the more splendid their afterlife would be, or the more beautiful their afterlife would be. This belief inspired the ancient Egyptians to build giant pyramids, magnificent temples, monuments, and tombs. So, this was the manner in which one of the earliest and most enduring civilizations in history was born, which flourished for more than 2000 years. So, the question is, how do we know so much about the ancient Egyptian civilization whose existence dates back so long and so many years? Well, the archaeological excavations, inscriptions, and official documents have helped historians to reconstruct the history of ancient Egypt. And it is through these sources the historians have figured out the life of ancient Egyptian civilization. Now, my dear students, let us learn about the history of ancient Egypt. The history of ancient Egypt is divided into three periods. the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, the New Kingdom. The time frame of Old Kingdom is approximately between 3000 to 2000 BCE. Middle Kingdom is approximately between 2000 to 1700 BCE, and the time frame of New Kingdom is approximately between 1600 to 1100 BCE. For about 100 years, that is between 1700 to 1600 BCE, Egypt was invaded and ruled by the Hyksos tribes. Well, we must know that from the earliest times, Egypt was divided into two parts, that is, Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. And about 3200 BCE, these were united and ruled by pharaohs or rulers to become a brilliant civilization that lasted until the death of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh, in 30 BCE. Well, Cleopatra was the name of seven queens in ancient Egypt. Amongst all of them, Cleopatra VII was the most famous and popular. She was known for her beauty and intelligence. She ascended the throne at the age of just 17. She was fluent in 9 languages, including her native Egyptian. Both Julius Caesar and Mark Antony courted her. In 30 BCE, she committed suicide, supposedly from a snake bite after Antony's defeat at Actium. Yet, she is one of the most powerful ruler of ancient Egypt, and she is still famous in history. And thus, all these are the history of ancient Egyptian civilization.